The Adventures of Old Mr. Toad. Chapter 19. Old Mr. Toad Gets His Stomach Full. Pray do not tip your nose in scorn at things which others eat, for things to you not good at all, to others are most sweet. There were ants, for instance. You wouldn't want to eat them even if you are dreadfully hungry. But old Mr. Toad and Buster Bear think there is nothing much nicer. Now Buster Bear had found old Mr. Toad catching ants, one at a time, as he kept watch beside their home, and it had pleased Buster to find someone else who likes ants. Right away he invited old Mr. Toad to dine with him. But poor old Mr. Toad was frightened almost to death when he heard that deep, grumbly, rumbly voice of Buster Bear. For he had been so busy watching the ants that he hadn't seen Buster coming. He fell right over on his back, which wasn't all that dignified, and made Buster Bear laugh. That frightened Mr. Toad more than ever. You see, he didn't have the least doubt in the world that Buster Bear meant to eat him. And when Buster Bear invited him to dinner, he was sure that that was a joke on Buster's part. But there was no way to escape. And after a little while, old Mr. Toad thought it's best to be polite, because, you know, it always pays to be polite. So he said in a very faint voice that he would be pleased to dine with Buster. Then he waved his feet feebly, trying to get on his feet again. Buster Bear laughed harder than ever. It was low, it was deep, it was a grumbly, rumbly laugh. And it sent cold shivers all over poor old Mr. Toad. But when Buster reached out with a great paw, with great cruel-looking claws, Mr. Toad quite gave up. He didn't have the strength enough left to even kick. He closed his eyes and waited for the end. What do you think happened? Why, he was rolled over to his feet so gently that he gasped with surprise. It didn't seem possible that such a great paw could be so gentle. No, said Buster Bear in a voice which he tried to make sound pleasant, but which was grumbly-rumbly just the same. I know where there is a fine dinner waiting for us, just a little way from here. You follow me, and we'll have it in no time. So Buster Bear led the way, and old Mr. Toad followed as fast as he could, because he didn't dare not to. Presently Buster Bear stopped beside a big, decayed old log. If you are ready, Mr. Toad, we will dine now, said he. Old Mr. Toad didn't see anything to eat. His heart sank, and he shook all over. I'm not hungry, said he in a very faint voice. Buster Bear didn't seem to hear him. He hooked his great claws into the old log and gave a mighty pull. Over rolled the log, and there were ants, and ants, and ants, hurrying this way and scurrying that. More ants than Mr. Toad had ever seen in all his life before. Help yourself, said Buster Bear politely. Old Mr. Toad didn't wait to be told twice. He forgot all about his fright. He forgot all about Buster Bear. He forgot that he wasn't hungry. He forgot his manners. He jumped right in among those ants, and for a little while he was the busiest Toad ever seen. Buster Bear was busy too. He swept his long tongue this way, and he swept it that way, and each time he drew it back into his mouth, it was covered with ants. At last old Mr. Toad couldn't hold another ant. He remembered Buster Bear and looked up fearfully. Buster was smacking his lips, and there was a little twinkle in his eyes. Good, aren't they? Said he. The best I ever ate, declared Mr. Toad with a sigh of satisfaction. Come dine with me again, said Buster Bear. And somehow this time old Mr. Toad didn't mind because his voice sounded grumbly-rumbly. Thank you, I will, replied old Mr. Toad.